What's up, guys? Welcome to the MMA On Point live chat. How's it going? This is our second week on the channel. We got PT over here acting as human as possibly perceivable. I don't know where I was going with that sentence. Good to see you, PT. You guys know me. I am the co-owner of the channel. I used to work at Target. PT has worked for the BBC, lesser places than Target. BT Sport, ESPN, MMA Fighting. Bullshit. How's it going, man? How you doing?
Look, man, I applied to Target and they wouldn't accept me. They said, "What do you mean you want me to fly an employee from a different country in for shifts?" And I was like, "That's exactly what I want. That's always what I've wanted." But
it's an entry-level position. It's very tough to get. Very tough to get.
It is. It is.
Well, what's up with you, Lon? How you doing today, man?
Doing good. Cannot complain. It's been
that beautiful man.
Wow. Just this beautiful, unkept, haven't had a haircut in like 2 months looking man. But doing good. It's been a smooth morning. Can't complain. Everything's working for now. So
like your bowels.
Can we ask the chat if Lawton has graduated from the casual now that he's doing these prospect videos and Composer's Corner? I mean, it's pretty much the most die-hard MMA stuff you can be doing, and it's all Lawton, baby. So I mean, maybe the chat can tell us, has he graduated from the casual? Because I, for one, would like to put forward the motion that he does graduate his status after what he's been doing. He's doing unbelievable work, though. Hats off to Lawton, man.
Appreciate it, man.
Speaking of unbelievable work, Zach Batista in the chat, is that PT my Irish brother Carol? So that's a shout out to Dewey Cooper on the piece that went up yesterday. So amazing work on that. If you guys have not seen
what about Dewey Cooper, man? What about Dewey Cooper? That's one of the best interviews I've ever done. He didn't know what the video concept was, so he thought we were doing a podcast. But I mean, amazing, man. That guy's quote at the end. Honestly, I said it to you even before I handed it over to you, Jay. I was like, all I want to keep unedited is this last part of Dewey Cooper, because the man, he's a legend, like a legend. Unbelievable career he's had before he goes into the coaching role. I was blown away by those guys.
Yeah, being guys like King Mo and K1 and fighting Gary Goodrich. Like, he fought a lot of people over the years. Boxing, as well. Yeah, guy knows his stuff. And we were even talking about this right before. Like, we want to release that quote separately just because it was so cool and such an epic thing that he went on at the end talking about, what it's like before the fight, not giving predictions. You could describe it a whole lot better than I can. But
hey, I'm not even going to say anything. Just wait, keep locked in on the On Point MMA socials, because, it's On Point MMA on Twitter. Everywhere else is MMA On Point, but we should be releasing it. If you haven't seen the video yet, I think it's quite good. Check it out if this happens. It's all right.
It's all right.
It'll do. It'll do.
So, definitely check that out after this. Let's jump right into the main kind of points here today. So the Kumite Crunch, this is our opener. This is how we like to get started off on topics and give kind of our hot takes on it. So we go on 1 minute rants like a Kumite tournament. It is the Kumite Crunch. So why don't you go ahead and get us started off, LaTasia?
Yep. All right, guys. So if you've been here before, you kind of know how we do this. We got 5 topics, 1 minute each per person between PT and Jason. So the chat, you guys will vote on who takes the topic first. So as I kind of read the headline, which you see on the left side of your screen, I'll kind of give a little backstory with a question or kind of like some thought-provoking statements. So put your votes in the chat right now. Who should take this first headline of Stipe versus Ngannou? So, put PT or Jason in the chat. You guys are already doing it. Great. So, simple question for this one. Do you think it will go differently this time? Obviously, that's going to be the main event this Saturday at 260. So, we're just kind of talking about, is it going to go different? What are your general thoughts about that? Let's go to the chat and see who is going to start it off.
Easy for PT. I mean, PT just wrote that piece. I mean, it makes a ton of sense. Like, everybody wants to know,
Thanks
what
for
do you
voting
think?
For me, Dad. Dad, thank you. Don't use too much of the Wi-Fi, though, or the signal will drop out in this room. But thank you for voting for me again. I don't know how he accesses so many profiles to put in that many votes. It's really amazing. He can barely use his phone.
Good to see you here, Dad. My dad isn't doing nearly as good a job.
Yeah.
This is all just our dads.
Voting for me. So, all right, PT, you got 1 minute, Stipe versus Ngannou. Do you think it will go differently this time? Are you ready?
Yes.
All right, 1 minute starting now.
Look, it's nearly impossible for me to say whether the fight will go differently. I think Stipe Miocic is the greatest heavyweight in UFC history. But what I do think has changed is Francis Ngannou. I don't think this is going to be the same Francis Ngannou. I've spoke to a lot of members of his team, and really, like, they kind of lay it out plain and simple. His lack of experience going into that first fight, I think, was 4 or 5 years he had in MMA before that total. Like, as in, I started training and now I'm doing this. I think he took his first fight 2 weeks into training, something crazy. So I feel like on the back of going 5 rounds with Stipe, 3 rounds with Derek Lewis, he has far more experience. He's going to be a lot better versed. As well as that, with Extreme Couture and Eric Nixick, he's training with Ilir Latifi, a guy who comes from a wrestling family, a family of wrestlers who's been wrestling since childhood. Like, he is a big dude too.
Seconds.
I don't even know how that dude made 205. So I think, yes, Francis Ngannou's definitely improved, but will it be enough to beat Stipe? I honestly don't know. You'd have to put the clever money on Stipe for me.
Nice. All right. Landed the plane at 1 minute.
Shocker. I didn't expect you to say Stipe, to be honest with you.
All right, Jason, same topic. What are your thoughts? Will it go down the same? You got 1 minute starting now.
What this feels like for me is what we just went through with Jan Blachowicz and Israel Adesanya. It feels like I haven't learned my lesson with Stipe. I thought DC would beat him. I thought Ngannou would beat him the first time. And I'll be totally honest with you. I still feel like Ngannou's going to win this time. It's the classic, all I have to do is hit you once. You can have a perfect 25 minutes otherwise, but that's all Ngannou has to do. And I do think that it's been seared into his mind that he has to correct the wrestling. And we've seen this time and time again with guys like Khabib. People don't figure it out. For Ronda Rousey in the early days, nobody could figure out how to get around that arm bar. So it's easier said than done to just be like, well, go and train that and you'll be able to beat the best in the world. Stipe is absolutely the greatest heavyweight of all time. I think he's earned that distinction with the most heavyweight title, defenses consecutively. So you probably could put your money on him, but I've got it on Ngannou. I think he'll knock him out.
How dare you?
So many people are going to be pissed at me for that because, like, people really love Stipe, man. And I love Stipe too, but it's a fight, right?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, dude, because, like, you get the feeling like that Ngannou has to land one big punch where Stipe needs to have a perfect game plan for 25 minutes. But he did it already. It's not like we don't know, like, if he can do it or not. He definitely can, and he's amazing. He's amazing. He's an amazing striker as well as an amazing grappler. So that's just what it comes out. I can understand people picking Francis Ngannou 100%, but I always feel like that first fight, it's a very, very difficult task to come in and rematch someone and beat them if they beat you so concisely as Stipe did the first time around in January 2018.
Just looking at the comments, Jay Tivo sees the same thing happening. He hasn't seen that Ngannou's technique has gotten better. What if it gets past the first round, says Kistofa. These are absolutely, the criticisms. I mean, the first round, you go back and watch that first fight.
They're sharks now. They're sharks. We sharks, baby.
Sharks, baby. Is that what he said in the quote? I forgot about that one.
Oh, man. So many good ones. We sharks, baby.
So we'll see on it, but
all right.
The good thing is we get to find out. So.
We will know in a few days, ladies and gentlemen. All right, moving on to the next headline for the Kumite chat. Same thing. Put your vote for Pete or Jason. I think it was Rusty1 said everyone vote for Lawton. It's not gonna matter.
Well, now it's really gonna happen that you said it out loud.
I'm still not gonna do it, so you can do that. But all right, put your votes. Pete, Jason, we got the headline of favorite fight. So what is your favorite fight on this card for Saturday outside of the main event, which obviously we just talked about, which is Stipe versus Francis. I've got it pulled up. I'm sure you guys probably know the card like the back of your hand. So if you need a reference, I can do it. And yeah, I should not have called out Rusty because they're all voting for me. You guys are some bastards, you know that? Oh my gosh. Okay, the next one that I see that's not me, I'm probably gonna go with. And it's still me. Okay, well. All right, well, this is just going fantastic. This is why you can't trust YouTube. You can't acknowledge anything. There's one for Tom. Can we call Tom real quick?
Yeah, let's get him in. Let's
jump in real quick.
I say you pick.
Let's do. Okay, the first one that was not me was Jason. So
All right.
we're just going to give it to Jason. You guys forfeited your votes this turn, so we're tossing it to you, Jason. You got 1 minute on your favorite fight outside of the main card for this weekend. You ready?
No.
Do you need a second to review?
No.
You sure?
No. I forgot other words. Yeah, let's go for it.
All right, 1 minute starting now.
Yeah, I don't watch the prelims, okay? I'm a main card, kind of big picture kind of guy. I mean, what are we talking about here? William Knight versus Alonzo Menefield is definitely standing out. William Knight looks like one of those heavyweights that's the absolute future of the division. I think he'll be extremely exciting. He's one of those guys that came off Dana White's Tuesday Night Contender Series. They don't call it that way anymore, but that's what they used to call it, and I keep calling it that. It's just Dana White's Contender Series now. We got Abu Bakar Nurmagomedov fighting Jared Gooden. It's probably between those two for me, particularly going on the prelims. But I think I just got to go with the heavyweights. I think it's going to be an exciting fight. Or light heavyweight, rather. I think it's going to be an exciting fight. I think William Knight is just a destroyer, so I'm excited to see him get back in there. That's my underdog fight on the card. 11-10. I'm just done. I'm just done.
You need your you don't even need your full
Such
minute.
a quick case to make. I mean, it's like, what else is there to say? It's going to be fun. The guy can kill people on the ground, so. Now
right.
I'm ranting
I
as...
love when they... The guy can kill people. Tune in.
Do you think I'm just going to let you kill me, John? Do you think I'm just going to let you kill me? You still there, pussy?
All right, Petey. Favorite fight outside of the main event? You got 1 minute starting now.
For me, the most interesting thing is Sean O'Malley coming back after that first loss to Marlon Vera. His reaction to that fight has been pretty crazy. I mean, I just saw he did an ESPN with Ariel Helwani for ESPN, and he says he's going in feeling like he's still undefeated. And this is something he said a lot after the Vera fight. He was like, where am I going to be in 5 years? And where is this guy going to be in 5 years? None of that really matters. What matters is what happens on Saturday night against Thomas Almeida. And Thomas Almeida is no kind of scrub. A lot of people kind of see that 3-fight losing streak he's on now, and they forget the real enthusiasm that was around this guy's career when he first came into the UFC. I was at UFC 189 in Las Vegas when he had that epic firefight with Brad Pickett. It's one of the best cards ever. Have a look at that fight if you haven't seen it before. And this guy knows he can get back to where he needs to be with a win over Sean O'Malley. He's been in the dirt now for 3 fights, and this is the perfect way for him to save his UFC career and make a big statement. I love that fight.
Nice.
Bullshit.
Cool. Landed. Did you just...
And they both can kill people. They both can kill.
Okay, now we're talking. Now we're talking. Like, why didn't you just say that from the beginning? What are we doing here? That's great.
We are going off the rails today. I love it. All right, moving it along to our third headline. So chat again. Put your votes for PT or Jason in the chat. We got the headline of Chandler versus Oliveira. So, is this the right title fight? I literally... I do prefer... Sorry, you guys have no idea what just happened. So we use a messenger Slack to have these questions written out, and you can edit your text. And literally Jason just edited the text I was reading while I was reading it and said Lawton's an idiot who doesn't proofread questions. But it caught me off guard because I do proofread questions. And I saw my name and I was like, what the hell? Okay. Dear God, we are losing
Got
it today.
him.
Chandler versus Oliveira. Is this the right title fight at 155? And that's it. So that's the question. I'm going to the chat.
And am I Lawton an idiot?
Ryan Coates, you're the
questions?
man. $5 super chat. Lawton's the GOAT. Thank you. Nicola's in here too. So appreciate seeing the regulars as always. Okay, let's go. I'm seeing Pizzi for this one, I believe.
Oh,
so,
shit.
Yeah. And there it is. That's what you get for picking on me, Jason.
I'm
So
sick of that guy.
that's what
Switch to me real quick.
I think we're all a little
He doesn't
sleep
even
deprived.
speak American.
He doesn't speak American. All right, so Pizzi, get us back on track.
This is bullshit.
Chandler versus Oliveira. Is this the right title fight for 155? You got 1 minute. You ready?
Yeah.
All right, let's hear your thoughts starting now.
Let's get this straight before I go on this rampage about this. The right fight to make was Dustin Poirier v. Charles Oliveira. But Dustin Poirier doesn't want that fight right now. He wants to fight Conor McGregor because that's where the money is. So when you take that out of the equation, I think, yes, Chandler v. Oliveira is the fight to make. A lot of people are getting onto me talking about Tony Ferguson and Justin Gaethje, both of whom are coming off losses. That isn't a good look for the UFC to put guys in there on losses. And look, people are saying, oh, he's only fought once in the UFC. Michael Chandler has been one of the greatest lightweights in the world for a decade. For a decade. He has been a 3-time Bellator champion. He has beaten 3 UFC champions. This guy is championship pedigree. There's no doubt about it. He has been perfect since he came to the UFC. The guy hasn't put a foot wrong. He even jumped in on the live chat one day to have a chat with us. The guy is great. I think you got to put him in the spot. He's done everything they've asked him to do, and he was willing to step up on short notice on several occasions. So, yes, the right fight to make.
Nice. Cool. All right. Jason, your thoughts. Chandler versus Oliveira. Is this the right title fight to make? You got 1 minute starting now.
Pick me. Pick me next time. Yeah, so I've got largely the same kind of thoughts here. The fight that should have been booked should have been Poirier versus Oliveira. That's the one that should have happened. And unfortunately, we got a situation here where this happens to everybody once they get to the top. And to a certain extent, it's hard to blame them. There's a money fight on the table, and so they go for it. My question is it really a money fight for Poirier in today's day and age where I think Poirier can make quite a bit? I'm sure he'll make more with Conor, but how much more is the real question. Is it worth derailing everything and potentially losing to Conor, never actually getting the belt you want? That could happen. Of course, I've got him as the favorite here. So that's who I would have had. Gaethje has admitted on his own that he feels he should win a fight in order to get the title shot. So it's hard to argue against his own logic when he said that out loud. I think this fight makes sense. And as you pointed out, Pete, it's been over a decade that Michael Chandler has been at the top. Just because he hasn't been in the UFC doesn't mean anything. We had this problem with Crow Cop getting head kicked by Gonzaga, so he didn't get to face Randy Couture. All these things over time of trying to bait things a little too long. Let's just go ahead and make the match now while both guys are ready. Let's do it.
Man, you guys really like Chandler, huh?
I don't know. Yeah, I've never met him.
Hate the guy.
All right, cool. Good thoughts. All right, so let us move it on to our next headline. We got Paddy the Baddy. So chat.
Never heard of him.
Never heard of him. Sounds terrible, actually. So chat, who should take this one? Jason or PT? Put your votes in the chat. So we got the headline, Paddy the Baddy. Let me make sure Jason didn't edit my notes. So if the rumors are true that Paddy Pimblett has signed to the UFC, who should he fight first? So if you didn't know, that's kind of like the rumor going around is that Paddy is done at Cage Warriors. He's moving over to UFC. So if that is confirmed and going to happen, who should he fight first? So let's dive to the chat, see who's going to win this one. Ooh, it's looking pretty. It's looking pretty close. Let's get a few more in because it is pretty tight. Jason. Ooh, baby. Jason, my thing just stopped loading for a second.
No, mine's working.
Dang, this one's close.
All right, whenever there's a tie, Lawton, you have to answer it.
I have to answer.
That's the rule.
Who should Paddy fight? But I don't even know where to start with that topic.
All right, so you get to keep your name. You get to keep casual for now.
Yeah, I know.
As long as that's your answer.
I haven't graduated yet, so I don't know anything about anything. So, all right, Jason, I saw 4 come in at the end, so we are going to toss it to you, Paddy the Baddy. Who should he fight first if he comes to the UFC? You got 1 minute starting now.
Can lift 20 pounds with this sucker. Okay, here we go. Yeah, so for me, the way I see this one is Paddy. One of his most interesting fights that he's had to date was with Julian Erosa. It's something that he's talked about wanting to do. Julian Erosa is now back in the UFC. He was on Tough. He went over to Cage Warriors after things didn't necessarily work out. I think those two could fight. And I think that would be the most interesting thing if he were to stay at 155. Julian Erosa is at 155 in the lightweight division, right? For the UFC. So I think that would make a ton of sense. Otherwise, I think he needs to make the move down to 145. I think he's a small lightweight. And what I don't like the idea is if he does come over and he's fighting at lightweight and he's going to have to face somebody like Islam Makhachev or Kevin Lee when he's back down, Gregor Gillespie, a lot of those bigger wrestlers I think will give him a lot of trouble. So for now, the answer is Julian Erosa, but I think it would make a whole lot more sense to fight down at 145 where he won't have to deal with those bigger guys that are cutting a shit ton of weight.
Cool. On the dot, 1 minute. All right, Petesy, Paddy the Baddy, coming to UFC. Who should he fight first? You ready for your minute?
Yeah.
All right, 1 minute starting now.
So Paddy the Baddy is one of the most captivating figures who have ever fought in Cage Warriors. In fact, he's probably the biggest poster boy Cage Warriors have ever had. Since the age of 20, the UFC have been pursuing Paddy Pimblett. He has turned him down on a number of occasions. And really, we've seen these moments in his career against top European prospects, Soren Bak, against Nad Narimani, who went on to be signed for the UFC. He has become the guy who gets people to the UFC, but he was fighting these fights incredibly injured. He had a broken hand for Soren Bak. He fought, I think it was a knee injury when he fought Nad Narimani, all because he felt like he had to show up for the people of Liverpool. This guy is the symbol of Liverpool MMA for so long, and I just think he's brilliant. He's a star. He has beautiful hair. He has an amazing submission game, and now he has a very well-rounded game with striking.
10 seconds.
Face and answer is perfect. It's Julian Erosa. He was meant to have a star-making moment that night. It was the same night that Conor McGregor became a double champion at MSG, and Paddy the Baddy was fighting Erosa, puked in the cage afterwards, and there was a lot of negative sentiment about the scorecard. So that's the fight to do. They've both improved drastically, and right now, Paddy, I've talked to him, he is considering whether to fight at 145 or 155 next. But whether it's the UFC coming to call, I don't know.
That was a pretty abrupt stop, and that was.
It was yeah. There's no information that you might potentially know in the background or anything. It's great. Absolutely nothing. You haven't had any conversations with him this week or anything. Well, my thing is, can we just get a clean cut of you saying he has great hair?
Man, he has the most beautiful hair. I mean, the man's hair is like his crown. Like, people think like that by slagging his hair, he's gonna be like, oh, I better change my hair. He has inspired like thousands of kids in Liverpool to get this same haircut. When he used to fight at the Echo Arena, this is Cage Warriors, by the way. This isn't the UFC. He used to sell it out. The same place where Darren Till fought Stephen Thompson. Go back and watch those fights on Fight Pass. The energy is unbelievable. He also is one of the best walkouts in all of MMA. He comes out to some remix of Where's Your Head At and Tiesto Adagio for Strings, I think, or Tiesto something else. I forget what it's called. I'm not a big dance music fan, but it's unbelievable. It's one of the greatest entrances ever. Even without a crowd, he's done it twice now, and it's completely electrifying, man. I can't say enough good things about Paddy Pimblett. So many people wrote him off for so many years, and I always knew he had the talent, he had the star potential, and it's great to see him put it together like he did last weekend against David Martinez. And how many times do you see a prospect deciding when he's going to the UFC, by the way? He said no to him on a couple of occasions.
Yeah.
He wins that fight, and he's like, I'm going to the UFC. And even the promoter, Graham Boylan, is like, I don't know if he's going to the UFC. So if that happened, that would be crazy, right?
Yeah. Would you say, so let me ask you this question. Would you say he's legitimately, and I won't ask it, I swear to God, Lawton, would you say, just ask Lawton.
Please no.
Would you say, Lawton, that he's the biggest star in the UK? Of course, Petesy answered, though. Lawton's just like, I don't know.
I think, like, because of Darren Till and stuff, I think it's very hard to say that. Till's huge, right? Like, he's a massive deal. But Paddy is, like, he's like a cult hero. You know, he is a guy, one of the most captivating interviews in the sport, one of the most unique characters in the sport. One of the things I didn't want him to go to the UFC for so long for was because of the shorts. He wears Sakuraba shorts. Yeah. And it's just been this thing he's been doing since he's a kid. And literally a kid. Like, when this guy came on the scene, he was 19. And I think he won his first title with Cage Warriors when he was 20. And as you guys know, because you're not casuals, when you get that Cage Warriors belt, it's pretty much a waiting game of when do you want to go to the UFC. And, you know, it's just, everything's come together perfectly. And if it was to happen, we don't know if it will happen or not. We definitely don't know that. But if it happens, that would be great.
Well, they're saying, like, big part of the rumors that he's going to sign with the UFC is he's been showing up on the website for, I've never even tried this. I didn't even know this existed on the website. But there's No comment. But there's a fantasy matchmaking element on apparently the UFC's website that I've never even known existed. But there's been screenshots that people have been putting up online where he doesn't have a picture with it yet, but his name is now selectable. And I don't know, maybe they've taken it down since then because they haven't announced the news. But it is one of those things where, add a comment whenever you're ready. We're waiting for your comment. It could be one of those things, where that's an indication that he's already been signed to the UFC. So we'll find out super quick here. So, yeah, I think it's great. I mean, he's a huge star, and it's the biggest. There's no doubt about this. If they were to sign him, he is the biggest star in the actual UK, outside of the UFC. Period.
Oh yeah. I don't think you can argue with that. I'd say his big rival, who they're actually quite friendly, I think now. But for many years, the fight that everybody wanted on the UK scene was him and the great Brendan Loughnane, who's now signed to PFL. Those guys were like head to head. Who's the best featherweight in the UK for many years? Brendan was fighting for the BAMA featherweight championship, while Paddy was the Cage Warriors featherweight champion. So that was something everybody always wanted to do. But it's probably never going to happen. But it's always been one of those talking points. Yeah. And the boy, there's a huge rivalry between Manchester and Liverpool as it is. Brendan's obviously the poster boy for Mancunian MMA, and then Paddy as the poster boy for Liverpudlian MMA. It would have been great if that had happened. And I love both the lads, but it never got off the ground. I forget what the question is.
What are we done? PT's Pigs in Podcast, sponsored by P3 Protein, or produced by... Yeah,
freaking cracked me up.
Getting swole with P3.
Yes, yes. We are sponsored by P3. No, we're not. All right, moving on to the final Kumite headline we got this week. So, chat, same thing. PT or Jason, who should take this one in the chat? This one's a little long, and I'm going to kind of show some stuff on the screen while I preface this. So, the headline is Gordan Ryan to 1. So, as I'm going to try to multitask and read this and show this how it goes. So,
there you go.
For those who don't know, Gordan Ryan is one of the most accomplished BJJ athletes in the world and has been teasing a crossover to MMA for a few years now. He has just officially signed with one championship. Nice. So will he be a star in MMA? And what you're seeing on the screen are all of his gold medal, BJJ gold medals. I said that backwards. So
he's average.
Just to give a little...
Not
do
that
what,
good.
PT?
He's average, middle of the road, not that good.
Yeah, super, he's not winning a ton of medals each year in BJJ, and almost
Can you block a double leg, though, bro?
Yeah.
Yo, bro.
So
what about ground and pound, bro?
Unreal.
So let's dive to the chat. Who should take this one about Gordan Ryan to 1? Looking like PT is winning so far.
Come on!
Yep, I think PT will be finishing this one out for us. So
bullshit ass bias.
So
much bias, dude.
So PT, give us your thoughts. Gordan Ryan moving over to 1. Will he be a star in MMA? You got 1 minute starting now.
The guy's already a star. That's the thing, right? They have never had a more polarizing man in jiu-jitsu as Gordan Ryan. He is the king, the self-proclaimed king, and I agree with him. The guy is absolutely genius. He is an unbelievable grappler. There's no doubt about that, but that's something we've seen so many times in the UFC. We've seen Rodolfo Vieira getting submitted just a matter of weeks ago, one of the greatest jiu-jitsu competitors of all time. But what Ryan brings to the table that Rodolfo didn't is his personality, his polarizing nature. He knows how to sell. He knows how to get people talking. He just slapped Andre Galvao upside the head 2 weeks ago. So I think he's 1-0 already in MMA, to be honest. But this is the type of stuff that gets promoters salivating. It's not just about his skill set. It's about who he is. The guy brings so much to the table. A handsome gentleman, too. Put him in there against Rug for me. If we're going to do a debut, you want to make some noise, put him in with Rug. That's what I'd like to see.
Shit.
All right. 1 minute on the dot. So, Jason, tossing it to you. Gordan Ryan moving to 1. Will he be a star, or is he already a star, as PT said? So, 1 minute. Give us your thoughts, starting now.
This is one of the things that I've really enjoyed that one has actually done in the past couple of years. They were first to get, actually that was Ryzen that had Crone, so Ryzen did it as well. But we got guys like, oh shit, I forgot his name.
Gary Tonin.
Gary Tonin, thank you. We got guys like that getting signed over there, and I think it's really smart to get people who are making their way towards the sport and giving them a nice place to start. It's kind of like what Bellator does in the U.S. It's a really, really good thing to do to bring people along. And I think for Gordan Ryan, there's absolutely no doubt that he's going to be a star in MMA if he can just manage to get a couple of wins. The question is, will he be a star in MMA? If he doesn't win, I mean, then the jig's up. You know what I mean? So he has to win just like everybody else. But yeah, if you ask me, I think he'll be a huge star. I think he'll do really well. It's a question of when does he get to the West? When does he get to America? When does that happen? And that's when it'll really blow up.
Yeah, because America is the only place in the world that can give these guys a test, right? Yeah.
That's it, man. Well, I mean, I just don't think so. I mean, there's no doubt about it. So I'll just say this out loud. There's no doubt about it that the
America is the greatest country in the world.
Well, like, even if he was fighting in Cage Warriors, I feel like there'd be more impressions of what's going on. Because the thing is, like, if you look at Eddie Alvarez and you look at DJ's career, they got some huge fights coming up over the next couple weeks. But it feels like they've fallen off a cliff in terms of being in the headlines and being in the news. Just because, yeah. I mean, it's kind of like, obviously COVID hit last year and that affected a ton of things. But it feels like they're fighting in a week, April 7th, right? Week and a half, whatever that is. They're fighting here soon, and it feels like there's virtually no buzz for it. And of course, DJ always had problems with that. Eddie Alvarez, I wouldn't say had problems with that. I think Eddie Alvarez was in some highly anticipated fights, minus Conor McGregor, like the Poirier fight, like the Cowboy fight when he debuted in the UFC, of course, with Chandler, even in Bellator. I feel like the groundswell underneath them of fan support has kind of fallen off because they're just, here's the thing, you know, it's like, it's not even just that it's America, quote unquote, because I get that's the joke, but the media isn't there. Who's there getting the interviews? You know what I mean? Like,
dude, 74 billion people watch ONE FC. All right, what are you talking, mate? Chatri has said that over 100 billion trillion people watch the last event. So what's the need for media when you've got 7 bazillion viewers every event?
I like how you just made up thrillion. Like, yeah, it's even more. You didn't make it up. Those are official reports. Sorry for saying otherwise.
They're official viewing figures, Jay.
This is ironclad science, baby. Well, so, like, I think that's the biggest problem of being in Singapore. And, you know, we're starting to get looped into some of these emails for media stuff. So, I mean, they're trying to include the Western media. But as Western stars, where their base is, I think that's one of the difficult things is MMA Junkie's not there, MMA Fighting's not there, the Mac Life isn't there, all those big ones that you've never heard of. Nobody is there that is doing these interviews that are usually getting out to people. ESPN's not a part of it. And they are able to do some virtual stuff, but it's not these in-depth pieces like the one that they just shot with Sean O'Malley, the piece that Stipe is doing with Ariel Wani. There just isn't the same exposure right now. And I think that's the problem of being landlocked on the other side of the planet during a pandemic. Who knows, maybe it'll pick up, but that's why I think Gordan Ryan will really explode when he gets over to, just any of the Western established, more among the media, the Western media. Yeah, that's the big key. Yeah.
I agree. I was only pulling your leg about the American stuff. I've got that chip on my shoulder. I've got to represent. You know what I mean?
Hey, we do have a reputation for a reason as being a little arrogant. So I had to backpedal a little bit and explain too. So it's all fair game. Lon's the most arrogant.
I am the most arrogant. Yeah.
Well, cool. Well,
I would be if I was that beautiful lot, and I'll tell you that much. I'll be an arrogant piece of shit if I had that face for you, my friend.
Just stroke that beard on camera for a couple.
Dude, I gotta trim this. It's getting ridiculous.
Do ASMR. Just release a whole video of Lawton just stroking his beard into a very sensitive microphone.
Sitting here talking like that. Yeah, that's weird. I don't like that. Nope. Nope. Not doing that.
Yeah.
I'm tapping out. That was weird. That made me feel uncomfortable.
Everyone's on board. Faith Rock says not safe for work beard strokes. There it is. Well, so our viewers have gone up as a result of that, which is great.
Holy crap, we have 2,000 viewers now.
Yeah, 1 billion viewers. We got all of one's listeners as well. So here's the question for you guys then. So what do you think of any of those topics? What do you guys want to dive into a little bit deeper, and what have we not touched on? Krone's stand-up is exactly like Nate. He needs to train outside of his circle. Oh, Kistofa. I don't know who he means by Nate. Of course, he wouldn't mean Nate Diaz. I don't think it's exactly like Nate Diaz at all. It couldn't be any further apart. If anything, it's more like the old Hoist Gracie. Like, you see him doing that classic, like, push kick where he'll just kind of stand with his, like, yeah, that's like the old thing that Hoist always used to do inside the cage. It's a very old school Gracie jiu-jitsu way of trying to keep back strikers while they're trying to strike, and then he goes for the takedown in the midst of that while they're not expecting it. You know what I mean? It's like that kind of thing. And, of course, the Cub Swanson fight, I don't think he looked like Nate Diaz at all in that fight. I think Krone is legit. He just, we'd like to hopefully see a little bit of that more developed. He's obviously...
It's going to be a huge deal, man. Like, I mean, the guy, his lineage alone, like, you're the son of the greatest. Do you know what I mean? As far as jiu-jitsu circles see Rickson Gracie, I know MMA crowds are kind of like, you're not 400-0, bro. Nobody really believed it was. Like, you know, but you go back and watch the documentary Choke, you see how much this guy evolved jiu-jitsu. See how he made it like a cultural thing in the US when they all moved to California. Like, Krone is a really interesting dude. He's a flat earther. More power to him. But, like, you know, it's
he's a skeptic,
he's an interesting,
He's just a skeptic.
Guy. Watch the video if you want to know a bit more about Krone. A great video to watch is made by, I forget the guy's name, but it's a jiu-jitsu. It's a
Vice did do a good video, but you're talking.
I think
about
his name is Stuart Cooper. But it's basically Eddie Bravo talking about, I believe it was like an ADCC final with him and Gary Tonin and Rickson watching the fight and his reaction to the fight. It's unbelievable. Just type in Stuart Cooper, Krone Gracie, Gary Tonin, and it's really worth your time. It's brilliantly edited. It's fantastic.
Nice. Yeah, I need to see that. JTivo says it's because the MMA media generally don't even watch Eastern promotions. Ask them anything about one, they couldn't tell you a thing. You think that, JTivo?
Never heard of it.
Do you really think that? I feel like it's harder to keep up with. You know, I think there are a lot of cards where the name value absolutely isn't there. But a lot of their cards, I think part of that, though, is a lot of their cards turn into kickboxing cards. So if you're covering MMA, you're just not as interested. But anytime, like, I don't know anybody who couldn't talk about, the bigger fights. Absolutely. Like Onlin Sang, Angela Lee, Christian Lee. I don't know anybody who couldn't talk about those people. You know, Brandon Vera being champion over there. You couldn't. Are you really? Okay. Well, fair enough. I mean, I guess.
Oh, he messed.
I was like, Jesus, volunteering that. I think there's just less coverage of it because it's less accessible. It's just as simple as that, you know. The real money for people that are going out to get interviews is, you know, in person with high-def cameras. You know, that's where people really want to pay attention because anybody can do a Skype interview right now. I do see people in MMA media trying to do interviews with Demetrius Johnson or Eddie Alvarez, you know, but they're getting like 100 views because everyone else is also trying to do that, you know.
It's a scheduling issue for most of the sites, you see, because all of the fights are happening, like, you know, like, especially next week, like, it's going to be just reaction to 260 all week. Like, you know, it is. Like, these pay-per-views create so many storylines for them. The whole revenue is based off people clicking on the articles and reading them. So they're just going to ram that down your neck. Next to it will be Poirier McGregor, or is Habib retired again? It's basically just talking points that, you know, they know will stimulate the audience. So it's difficult. I know that Junkie and Fighting do cover these events, but it's very hard to do secondary treatments, like in terms of pre-fight, post-fight interviews. As Jason said, when you're not there, so they're usually just result pieces. So I think they do cover it. It's just very hard for them to cover everything and send people to these events and then be like, oh yeah, I know we spent $5,000 sending our crew over there, but let's get one of you to write up the one championship interviews. You know, it's different.
Yeah. I mean, I would definitely consider it a resource thing, 100%. I mean, it's just difficult. And the one thing that I would counter to that, so to JTivo's point, whenever do you remember when it was Sage Northcutt, Eddie Alvarez, and DJ? I believe that was in LA that they did a press conference. There was a media frenzy around that whole thing. When they are available and one sets up the media events inside the U.S., people do show up for them, and they have the right stars. I mean, people would love to get Angela Lee an interview, Christian Lee, Onlin Sang. Those people speak English extraordinarily well. Brandon Barrett, like there are a lot of champions among their ranks. Bibiano Fernandez, people that can really talk extremely well and put together some great media.
And
So
like Gordon Ryan's going to do that as well. Gordon Ryan is a guy people are going to want to interview.
oh my God, yes,
that's a huge creates huge talking points within jiu-jitsu. I feel like the whole of jiu-jitsu is being held up on this guy's back sometimes. So there's no doubt about it. He's going to add a lot of interest to them cards as well.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's a tough one, How do you bridge that gap? And hopefully that can be done a little bit better soon here. But Hamzat, Hamzat's Twitter post about him coming back. What do you think about it? I actually didn't see the actual Twitter post. What did the actual Twitter post say?
And he was like, "I'm coming to smash." So
did he really post that? Please tell me he didn't post a gun.
It's him with a rifle, kind of illustrated, and he's like, "I'm coming back to smash." So look, it's like I think that's great.
Oh wow, he really did post that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's great that he's back. Like that's what I just felt like. We all just needed to ease the fuck off here, because I'm sure he was on the phone trying to get over this shit, going back to the gym so he could please his bosses at the UFC and getting back in the gym and then doing further damage. Like, I'm happy to see him do that. I hope he's made the decision off his own accord, and I hope he's 100%. The UFC shouldn't be bringing him back unless he's 100%, as far as I'm concerned, because why do we want to see a diminished product of what this guy was? Let's make sure he's 100%, and let's maybe just slow it down a bit. Let's not maybe throw him into a fight right at the top of the bracket after such an ordeal he's had. Let's make sure he's still the same guy, and then let's think about doing that.
Yeah, ramp it back up. Let the kind of a little bit of time and separation from this thing mean something, and let him actually recover. Give him, people have been talking about this in MMA for years and years and years. Tune-up fights are a great thing for big fighters. I always feel bad for the guy that has to be the tune-up fight for sure. But, if you really want these people to reach their potential, don't throw them in the fire every goddamn time you can. Let's slow it down a little bit, give this guy some breathing room, and give him a little bit more reasonable fight relative to being ranked at number 15 in the division with only one fight against Reese McKee, who is really a 155er, as great as he is. So, yeah. I'm on board with you there.
I wonder if Donald Cerrone is just staring at his phone in pure terror at the moment, just like, please don't ring. Please don't ring. No.
Oh, man. That would be a reasonable fight to set up at 170. It would feel like sacrificing to the new guys. But, I mean, Donald Cerrone's game, man. If anybody's going to test him, it would be somebody like Donald Cerrone. Absolutely. Let's see what else. What else you guys think? Do you guys think it's crazy that Stipe's age is not being talked about? He's starting to look a bit weathered. Well, his hair looks better than it's ever looked. He's grown into that look all right. I think he looks all right to me. How old is he actually now? 38, 39, somewhere around there? Can pull that one up when you get a chance. But, it's an interesting point. I do think that is absolutely a factor in this fight. I mean, what was that? UFC 220 is what it was. That was, 3 years ago? I mean, so, yeah, things definitely got out of the bounds. So he is 38. Okay. That's 38 or 39, I figure, is what he was. I mean, we see guys go on a whole lot longer than that, though. We've seen the Randy Couture's go on until they're 44, 45, We see guys last a long time. Dan Henderson, of course, Daniel Cormier, plenty of people out there that are still thriving. And until they start to show you signs of aging, show you that they're starting to slow down, I generally don't think too much of it. There has to be a sign that they're slowing down for me to make a big deal out of that. And I always kind of feel bad for them, too, when a lot of people focus on that age without something. I wonder, here's a real question. I wonder how much that affects their own psyche and makes them start to doubt themselves because they're being bombarded with questions about their age. Like, oh, maybe I am getting old. Does that ever kind of, get through and actually start to form cracks in their confidence? What do you think?
Yeah, it could. I feel like we've seen it over the years where there are questions asked. I wouldn't be at all surprised if Francis Ngannou is sick to his teeth of people asking about his cardio, about his grappling, about all this stuff because he's going to be inundated this week. Let's be honest. Every time he's probably going to be on Sports Center, they're going to ask him about it. He's probably going to be on some morning show. They'll ask him about it because, they are the biggest questions. So I think the same with the age thing. Any reoccurring question to these fighters that's slightly critical or has an air of criticism to it, it is going to frustrate them because they're trying to be ironclad. They're trying to be ironclad ahead of every fight is the biggest fight of these guys' lives. In the UFC, it's like that. You can be on a great run, lose a fight, and then you can just be, a piece of trash, basically. Like, that's the way the fan base is. They're so recent. The recency bias in this sport is unlike anything else I've ever seen in my life. So, I think it's always, things like that are always going to play into these guys' pre-fight mentality. And they've been pretty, like, overt with the fact that it does get to them. It does annoy them. So, I think it would.
Here's a really interesting point from Howard Tran here. What's up, Howard? Good to see you here.
Howie.
I love it how the UFC promotes Stipe versus Ngannou as the biggest, baddest rematch. And then on the Embedded episode, they are the two most normal dudes ever. So actually, like, reading that makes me think of how often that's actually been the case of heavyweights. Outside
DC
of maybe Brock.
Stipe.
Yeah, DC. I mean, even Fedor, obviously he had a crazy aura about him. But in terms of physique, he was about as normal and as plain as it got, Kane never had some crazy physique to him or anything like that. It's like a lot of guys that are the baddest man on the planet. It's like, I think for jiu-jitsu, Joe Rogan has a term for a lot of the guys who are really excelling at jiu-jitsu these days. He calls them nerd assassins. I feel like there's a bit of that in MMA. It's the toughest, like, ridiculous, most grueling sport in the planet. But on the same token, a lot of those dudes, they're just, you talk to Michael Chandler, you know what I mean? Like, guys that we had, Stephen Thompson, and not to say there aren't people that, are just straight gangsters in the sport too. There definitely are that, but there are a lot of people that are just like normal folks. Like, you think DC went to college, Stipe went to college, like a lot of these champions going down the line, of course, Kane went to college. A lot of these guys have full, educations going for secondary education, 4-year college degrees. And I think that's the thing. It's a bit deceptive. You want to almost think they're going to be like this Mike Tyson dude that grew up on the streets and kind of, went through this grueling past. Of course, Ngannou, he probably went through a more grueling past than anybody else out there, but he's also the nicest guy on the planet, like Howard was pointing out there. So it's not even guaranteed who you're going to be when you're the baddest man on the planet. I think there's something humbling about it. I think that might be it.
I think the big takeaway from what Jason just said is he has accused both Stephen Thompson and Michael Chandler of being nerds. Just remember that. Just remember that. Make sure someone tweet them and let them know. That was disgraceful.
They're a couple of losers. Brian Young, Donald Cerrone versus Diego Sanchez in the works. Oh, don't. I guess that kind of makes sense based on where they're at in their career. I'm just not into it. Anything with Diego Sanchez really just kind of gets my eyes rolling. What about you? Can you get up for a match like that?
One of the best coaches in the world, and that's been a big resurging force in his career. Josh Fabia. I know Josh is one of the greats, and look, that performance against Michel Pereira. How are you going to tell me that Diego Sanchez isn't back? So that's how I feel about it.
Yeah, Fabio is now coaching him. I can't believe it's not butter. I guess in February they were talking about this fight, early February. So it's just still not finalized? Because the article that you got pulled up here is from February 5th. So I don't know what the deal is. I guess they're looking at for May 8th. What's that?
Is that Tom Taylor's article from the Bleacher Report?
Yeah.
Lovely man, Tom.
Or no,
Mike Chiari.
Oh, I don't know Mike.
Yeah, thanks for just lying.
Sorry.
We we have business based on efficiency and accuracy. Yeah. So, I guess we'll see what's up with that. I'm not too into it. These live things are garbage. Stick to the top 10s. Well, this is the extras channel, you're a bam, so you can fuck off.
Yeah, dickhead. Don't fuck yourself.
Seriously, like, how vapid do you have to be as a human being to be just like, give me a 10-minute video, nothing else, bro. Like, yeah, you can seriously fuck off, bam. Get the fuck out of here. Okay, there we go. I said it in a nice way. I said it in the nicest way I
Super
could.
calm.
Yeah. Not to go and fuck himself in the nicest way you can possibly say that. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
Hey, did we see that middle super chat? Sorry to chime in.
Oh no, I did not see it.
I don't
Go for it.
because I know I called Ryan Coates on that, but yeah, that middle one, I don't think we've read it out. If you wanna, or I can't either. Or
Yeah, I don't have any idea how to pronounce this name. Lattersted. We'll go with that. $5. Just want to drop some dollars for you guys in 3 words plus a number. Nunes versus Shevchenko. 3. It's time. Keep it up. Well, actually, you have an interesting take on this one, Pizzi.
which
You're not for it, right? Nunes versus Shevchenko 3.
yeah, I mean, I feel like where's the plus for Amanda Nunes in that fight? She's got 2 wins over Valentina. Granted, the second one was very close, but you have this person we look at as this immovable object now at 125, like the way we see Amanda Nunes at 135. I think it would be a big mistake because it could be like the Lima Musashi situation we saw in Bellator. Everybody in the world is saying Lima's the best welterweight outside of the UFC. He goes in and fights Musashi, loses the fight, and even though he hasn't fought at welterweight, it tarnishes him. Like you cannot.
You think so?
You cannot like. Well, I mean, when's
I
the
thought
last
he
time
looked
anyone's
good in
talking
that
about
loss.
Diego? When's anyone like? I haven't heard anyone talk about that guy since then. Like, where's the buzz gone? It's not there. Like, that's what I feel like it would happen if they did Amanda and Valentina again. Like, Amanda looks like unbelievable at the moment. I don't know why. Go ahead.
Sorry, you're in the middle of a rant. I'm just like asking questions. Go ahead. Finish up.
No, but I just don't know why the UFC would do that when you have this. Like, what we want to know is who is the best in each weight class, and to do this a third time when there's really like, what will that open it up to? Like a 5-fight series? Then I mean, it's just, I don't know. I just think it would take away from the other divisions, to be honest, if they were to do that.
Well, so 2 questions. What would it do for Amanda Nunes? What I think it would do is a challenge, on the most basic sport level. Obviously, there's risk involved in it, but I don't think she has a challenge right now. So I think that would be the most basic answer to that question. B, Douglas Lima, I don't think he's in the news right now because he doesn't have anything booked, and so he's not doing any press or anything. I thought he looked outstanding in that fight because he hurt Gegard. Like, we literally made a list right after that one went up of 10 times the fighter who lost really hurt the guy that they lost to, And Gegard Mousasi took a beating in that fight. He won in terms of the points. You can't disagree with the criteria. He absolutely won, but his legs were absolutely torched up. The harder shots were coming from Lima. And at the end of that, like, you look at Gegard and he's just like, thank God that's over. I know I won. Here's my hand being raised, but thank God that's over. It was a competitive fight, and Gegard is one of the best to ever do it. But I also get what you're saying. I tend to be more charitable to people in their losses. Like when Ferguson lost to Oliveira, I'm like, dude, Oliveira's just that good. Gaethje's just that good. But a lot of people, they don't really see it that way, and they tend to, kind of, I don't know, want to say that they're washed up or something. So I see your point. But I do think that, like, you can look really good in a loss, especially when it's multi-divisional and it's against another champion. I think you can look really good. And I personally think he looked great despite that Gegard loss. And that would be my answer to that primary question you had. What's in it for? Maybe it's not enough for her, but I do think that the pure sporting aspect of it is who else is she going to fight that's going to challenge her? And if she wants a challenge, that's it.
Like, we're talking about how well Lima did against Musashi. Like, I agree with you there. I agree that Adesanya did great against Jan Blachowicz, but how was the fan base reacted to it?
Pussies.
Do you know what I mean? Like, they couldn't wait to throw the guy under the bus. Like,
True.
that's the way it goes. Like, oh, I thought he was going to be one of the greatest ever. He probably still will be one of the greatest ever.
Yeah.
Like, it's just recency bias once again. So, that's the way it goes. That's the way the cookie crumbles in this game. Hurt business, baby.
Yeah, and you're right. I mean, speaking of this main event this weekend, a lot of people said that Ngannou was done after the first Stipe one. They were like, oh yeah, it's a hype train derailed. No, it was, what did they use to describe Ronda Rousey? He was exposed. They basically went the same route with Rousey losing to Holly Holm. He was exposed. And to a certain extent, yeah, he was exposed in a certain couple of ways, but he was very, very young into his career, as you pointed out. I felt like that was very cognizant to me, and I'm sure it was cognizant to you and a lot of people watching at the time, that he was very, very young and new to the sport. So, yeah, you're absolutely right. There is the recency bias. There absolutely 100% is that shitty side of the fan base. I don't care. Like, I know maybe some of you are in this chat. I don't care who hears me saying this. There is a shitty contingent to the fan base that just forgets that these people are human beings. And what they're doing is, I don't know, trying to be the best at something on the whole goddamn planet. It's just like, dude, try doing that at anything.
We put up the prospects video. I was laughing with Lawton about this before we came on. We put up the prospects video of Muhammad Mokayev, who is one of the greatest amateurs MMA has ever seen. He's been competing since he's 15. 15 years of age. He's now 20 years of age. And he's won 27 fights combined between amateur and pro. And people in the comments going, man, he's just crushing a load of cans. You realize he's fighting the best amateurs from these respective countries. Like, you shouldn't know who these people are. You don't watch amateur MMA. Why the fuck would you know who they are? And you're going, oh, I've never heard of this guy. Who is he beating? What names is he beating? He's fucking 20.
Yeah.
Do you realize that? From the age of 15 to 20, he had 27 fights and didn't win one. And you're going, haven't heard of any of these guys.
Well, so like, and here's, it shows that I think a lot of those people, I'll take responsibility for our side of the, the globe that doesn't have the IMAF representation here. People don't understand.
You just lose. You are in it. You just lose all the time. All right. That's how it happens.
Well, like the IMAFs are just like the incredible quality. Like if you rattle off Mokayev's like just, attributes as a human being going through martial arts until he got to MMA, like the credentials of people going through the IMAFs are like the pros here. It's ridiculously high standard. Like it's
like Shorty Torres won a gold medal at the IMAFs. James Gallagher competed at the IMAFs. Liam McCourt, who's a big deal in Bellator now, competed at the IMAFs. Like, just because you don't know what it is, like, don't shit on the guy who's done something incredible. It's just unbelievable.
Yeah, like it's unfortunate. I think more people need to get turned on to what the IMAFs are doing, and that I think is so important is they're really establishing a bar for pro MMA. They really are. We're here, I would say, in the Americas, in America, we had CM Punk start 1-0 and go right into the UFC. So when people go pro, it kind of doesn't mean anything. What IMAF is doing is actually establishing a high-class standard. I mean, when you say you're pro football, I mean, in any context, the American context, the world context of what football means, when people go pro in other sports, the NBA, the NFL, NHL, MLB, when they go pro, you're like, oh shit, you're really fucking good. Pro in MMA literally means you can be CM Punk. I could be a pro tomorrow. I could show up on a card tomorrow. Pro doesn't mean dick in combat sports. It doesn't mean anything in boxing either. We got guys like Jake Paul out there. We got guys like Askren, to be fair, who doesn't really have business being called a pro boxer. And, that's not to discredit his NCAA, his athletic.
That's Jason's opinion. That's Jason's opinion.
Hey, Askren, you want to hang out? Let's play some disc golf, bro. So it's just one of those things. People, I think the perception that people have is they don't realize that the IMAFs are a shark tank. It's ridiculous how high level it is. And so those people that are coming out of the amateurs, the amateur scene, going through that will absolutely crush half of the people that are pros around the world. Especially if you're winning those tournaments, you're almost guaranteed to a title in some organization. Like Hamzat won an IMAF, didn't he? I know he competed in the IMAFs. I believe he was undefeated as an amateur. I could, definitely look that up for us. Fact check me on that.
But it's like people don't realize these guys fight every day over there. They don't cut weight. You show up on weight, make sure you're on weight, and then you fight every day until you have a gold medal put on you. Like, that's insane. That is like that's incredible.
Yeah, there you go.
That they can do that. You walk into a room and there's 5 cages, and there's all these different countries. This is the closest thing we've got to government recognition for this sport as well, which is very important.
Yes,
they're trying to get this to the Olympics. I don't know if that's going to happen, but the fact that you have people coming out representing their countries, it's the closest thing that we have to the Olympics in MMA. Like, I mean, it's a big deal. I still think they're struggling to get some recognition from Sport Accord or VADA, but they're trying, man. And they have guys at the top of that, like Denzoin White, who has really been through this process already with the Judo Federation. So I think they're in a great place to do it. The best place anyone's ever been at to have MMA recognized as a global sport. IMAF are driving that far more than the UFC, in my opinion.
Just to fact check, I did lie. He didn't actually compete in the IMAFs, but he did beat an IMAF world champion.
Yeah.
So
there you go.
Yeah. So
that's a recognition. When you beat an IMAF world champion, that's a big fucking deal. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Khalid Lalam. I didn't want to say it out loud, but figure I might as well give him his recognition for being a champion as well. But yeah, that's a huge deal. I mean, there's a real standard. You're actually saying something when you're beating somebody like that and you're going through those ranks. I mean, it's a real Shark Tank. I mean, like, you know, people talk about the tough house and things like that. I feel like, you know, to a certain extent, depending on the season, you know, some seasons have been real Shark Tanks on that show. But I feel like, especially when you're first starting out, that kind of pressure going up against some of these people, these Sambo world champs, you know, these kickboxing world champs, they're trying to make their crossover. Those are the kind of people that are getting thrown into that meat grinder. You know, it's like, it's so impressive. So yeah, there's our, there's our big long rant about this whole subject. But moving on to some of the super chats. Jose Gomez, assuming this rematch goes the same way the first match did, would you guys like me think it's time for Stipe to hang him up while on top? Ooh, that's a great question.
He's going to want that Jones fight, man. Are you joking me? That's the biggest carrot dangle of all time. Whoever wins this fight, do you realize the amount of money that will be riding on John Jones' heavyweight debut? I honestly think Ngannou v. Jones is huge. I think if Stipe goes out and beats Ngannou the way he did last time, that's huge. So there's no way. I think there's one more fight at least for Stipe before he hangs them up. John Jones, man. His heavyweight debut. Come on.
Yeah. I mean, it really does look like John Jones. So if you watch the sparring footage that he's posting on his Instagram, you know, on his Twitter feed, he's definitely bulking up. Like, you can see it. And he keeps calling himself Fat John Jones. That's what he keeps calling himself. He's definitely, it looks like he's for real serious about this thing. It's not just a negotiation tactic to try to get more money to get another title fight against Jan or something like that. It seems really legit. So, yeah, I think if you're Stipe, you want that fight. Yeah, absolutely.
John
do. And then you can retire.
Jones.
T-Bones Jones. T-Bones, I guess it's just big. T-bone steak.
Yeah.
Let's see. Curry Neba. What's up, Curry Neba? Good to see you in here. Serious question. Can a DC-size Henry Cejudo beat Ngannou? What? What does that mean? A DC, you're just saying like DC in the frame of Henry. What?
Yes.
Serious question. Very serious question. Yeah, we'll give you a serious answer. Yes, absolutely.
The answer is yes.
Zach, everyone wants Stipe to lose every fight, and he keeps winning. Now they want him to retire.
Who wants him to retire?
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, maybe he's just responding to that question. Yeah, I don't think so. No, I think the idea is, I think what Khabib did. I think Khabib just set an example. And so if there's anything like that, people love to see a good story, someone end out on top, you know, happily ever after type kind of thing. Just as much, you know, there's the other half of the contingent that just wants to see him keep going and see how far, you know, they soar, you know. But, yeah, I think if there's anything, it's optimism for him as a champion. Because, I mean, especially if he beats Ngannou, like, twice, the way that guy's been massacring people in the heavyweight division, man, Stipe definitely has made that case just ridiculously stronger. And then he beats John Jones, who a lot of people do see as the greatest fighter on the planet right now. If Khabib was still around, it would be between those two. I mean, what more can you say if he beats him?
Like, this is a thing. I mean, John Jones is talking about money. If I'm Stipe Miocic's manager, if he beats Francis Ngannou and they're like, oh yeah, you're going to fight John Jones next, I'll be like, really? Really, am I? Can we talk about that Deontay Wilder money again, please?
And for John Jones, it's a better fight. You know, like for Jones, I think the problem with, to use the Deontay Wilder in there again, it's the Deontay Wilder bronze bomber, one punch type of risk. Like, that sucks. Like, to just think, like, it's like facing a boss in a video game, you know, in the most trivial comparison I can make. It's like facing a boss in a video game who just slices you once after you've almost beaten him, just gotten down to the very end, and you're just like, fuck. What am I supposed to do about that? You don't get a chance. You don't get to redo the fight. You don't get to go back in like a video game in real life. You got to wait a couple of years in most cases to get that that rematch. It doesn't happen. Some people never, ever, ever rematch. They just lose, and that's it. This would, of course, be a trilogy in their case, but man.
The thing is, for me, when you look at Ngannou's skill set and you look at John Jones's last few fights at 205, he's getting hit a lot. You cannot afford to get hit by a dude like that.
Oof.
You cannot afford to get hit by a dude like that, especially when you're moving up a weight class. Like, I mean, you just can't play that game. For me, that's the thing about Jones. The thing that's really special about him is he matches all of his opponents in their strength areas. And he's a fantastic wrestler. He's a fantastic striker. He's got beautiful submissions. But the one thing he definitely cannot equal is Francis Ngannou's power. That is, without a doubt, that is something you cannot play with if you go and fight that man. And Stipe Miocic and Derek Lewis are the only ones in the UFC who have managed to negotiate that. And of course, we know the Derek Lewis fight is famously tentative. I think I saw someone say the other day there's about 2 minutes of fighting action in that fight of 15 minutes. So, you know, I think that's the big question that would be huge if it is Ngannou v. John Jones. And how disrespectful, by the way, to Stipe Miocic that he won't even get like the thoughts of an immediate title rematch for the greatest heavyweight champion in the history of the UFC have just been taken away before the fight even happens.
That would be going the Frankie Edgar route. So what was it? Frankie Edgar beats BJ Penn. They rematch because it was BJ fucking Penn. And so after that, so that's one rematch. Then he goes up against Gray Maynard, draws with him, rematches with him. Then he fights Benson Henderson, loses to him, but it was a very close decision. They're like, well, we got to give him an immediate rematch. So he did 3 immediate rematches, all for the world title, 6 fights. 6 fights.
Exactly 6.
6, baby. The palm counts. The palm counts. That's the 6. So when you look at something like this, I mean, yeah, it's like that's what we just had for Stipe. Of course, DC had the fight in between with Derek Lewis, but in Stipe's case, it was lose to DC, fight DC, beat him, rematch again for the trilogy, and so you got 3 fights back to back for him of the same guy, and then potentially Ngannou, which would finish out their trilogy. Of course, that was split up only by the DC, by the way. So it's like you look back to 2018, you know, really 2017 is when the training camp started. That's a crazy thing to think about. We're 4 years into this thing, and he's been training for the same 2 guys for the last 4 years. That's fucking crazy. It's been DC and Ngannou the whole time. Oh, yeah.
Stipe looks in outrageous shape. Outrageous shape. I thought it was interesting. I was listening to DC and Helwani today, and DC was talking about how the weight will be very important. That's something to look out for because he was saying he lost some weight for his fight against Cormier because he wanted to be lighter, so his hand speed would make a big difference. But he's saying if he comes in at that 230 limit, he's going to exhaust himself trying to take down Ngannou. He wants to be. DC said he'd prefer to see him around 240-ish. Yeah. So he'll be able to really deal with that strength. So that's an interesting thing to look out for there because DC definitely knows a thing or two about fighting Stipe Miocic at this stage.
Seriously. Yeah, that's such a crazy thing to think about because, you know, it's like the lactic acid, the more muscle that you build up, you like bulk up, try to be big, strong, but then you're slower and your cardio isn't there. And that's what we saw with Shane Carwin after he totally blew out his gas tank against Brock Lesnar. He went and fought JDS, and I actually think that fight, I still think JDS would have won because JDS was just undeniable at the time. But Shane Carwin, his whole thing was just, let me blast you once. The only thing that I think he really needed to adjust in between of that Brock Lesnar fight was just don't fall him to the ground, let him stand back up and KO that son of a bitch. You know what I mean? Like, do something like that. And I feel like Stipe's in this weird middle ground because it's not KO power like it was for Shane Carwin. It's 100% the grappling. If he's too light, then it's almost like you're more susceptible to getting caught, but you're faster and the gas tank is there. But if you're stronger, then you can really get him down. I think that would be the biggest thing, even more so than just like, It's just trying to get the guy down. A massive guy. Does he? What did he actually weigh in that first fight? Can you look that up, Lawton?
Sorry, who?
Did he actually cut down for that first fight in Ngannou? I can't remember. I know Derek Lewis cuts down to 265.
No, I think he lost weight after that.
259.
Derek Lewis at a look.
259. Yeah. So right at the limit. Right as 6 pounds under the limit, which for heavyweight, very few heavyweights get that big. And it's all fucking muscle, dude. Look, guy is an absolute killer.
Do you think that plays into it? I heard Helwani and DC talking about that, and it was interesting. I never thought about it. They said the reason why Francis is the favorite going into this fight is because he looks like the image of what people think a heavyweight champion should look like. He looks like he can conquer fucking worlds. You know what I mean? He looks like, even
Rome
when you
Will's
hear
built in a day, and fucking Francis Ngannou conquered the entire empire and built it. It's crazy.
But he was even if you listen to that podcast with Joe Rogan, Ngannou was one of the captains of getting people across that threshold to Morocco. Like, this is a leader of men, essentially, like in the most vulnerable situations people can be in. He's a guy that people look to and went, he'll show us the way. Do you think that kind of plays into it, the fact that he looks the way he does? Is that why all the casual money might be going on him in such a rampant way, because he just looks so intimidating and domineering?
Man, I just think there's no way he's not going to be better on the ground. I mean, who knows? We've seen GDR versus Amanda Nunes, and GDR did not look any better on the ground. She did try to go for a submission attempt at one point.
He could be better, but the gulf between his and Stipe's skill set and grappling is just too vast to overcome in a matter of years. But it's like Eric Nixick said in our video feature. He's like, we just need him to be serviceable in the departments, get back to his feet. Like, they don't expect fucking Francis Ngannou to be hitting twisters on fucking Stipe Miocic. Like, don't be ridiculous. He needs to just get back to his feet. That's what improvements in the grappling sections would be in this fight. If you watch that fight, Stipe's holding him down in side control for a lot of the fight. And side control isn't a great control position. You can usually slip out the back door there and get up. But he just didn't know. It seems he didn't know that was how to do it. He just didn't have that cognition of what to do on the ground. Yeah. So if they've taught him things like that, like what is the best way to get out of side control bottom? Yeah. Well, here's 3 avenues you could use. Like, that will be a big help. I don't think that's not rocket science, lads.
Yeah. I mean, if it just comes back to that point of just needing to land one punch. I mean, like, so if it makes a difference to where he's not that much better, but he does stuff, a takedown, and lands a shot on the break that KOs him. That's all he needs. Yeah. That's it's almost unfair, you know what I mean? It's like when some people just have like ridiculous, it's like when Ryan Hall gets you to the ground. You go to the ground with that guy, it's pretty much game over. It's not the same BJ Penn, mind you, but he was called the prodigy, not because of MMA. It's because he was the fastest American to ever get a black belt. And within 3 years, he was an ADCC world champion. You know what I mean? Beating the absolute top echelon of his sport. That's why they call him the prodigy. And
it was Lepre, one of them, wasn't it? That he beat in the final. Was it Lepre?
I'm not sure. Yeah, I would have to look into it. But
maybe Leandro Vieira. Maybe it was Leandro Vieira. I don't know.
Yeah. Like, I know the basics, and that's about as far as I can go with it. So it would have been that Rio. Anyhow, Lawton's looking for it. But yeah, so as far as that goes, though, to that point, it's like Ryan Hall got him down. Didn't matter that BJ had that background. Of course, he was diminished, not the same person, but it does show. Yeah, so you see all these accolades.
Oh, did I pass it?
Yeah. See all these accolades here? World Jiu-Jitsu. It doesn't say who he beat, though. Yeah, it's just saying what he did. Yeah. Yeah, somebody can put in the chat.
That's all I remember.
Yeah, you're looking at MMA records. There's nothing down here.
I thought wrestling was below MMA though. Oh, I guess
not. No. Stuff like that doesn't really get.
I apologize.
But the point still stands. Certain people, they have attributes, they have skills that are just absolute equalizers. I mean, even when it comes to Gilbert Burns versus. I do think that Usman could have taken him down, but he didn't even want to. He didn't even want to risk it. He did the same thing with Maia. Once you have certain attributes and certain elements that are so dangerous, it's almost not even fair. So you just avoid those at all costs. And so naturally, that's what Stipe is going to have to do. It's the no-brainer. tactic of the century. Take down the guy who can knock you out with one shot. You know, it's the same thing for Anthony Johnson. It was the same thing for Shane Carwin back in the day. Anybody who has that kind of power. Same thing for Conor McGregor. It's like, it's almost unfair. There's just so much goddamn power corked in those hands. It's just like, well.
The man's calf was a balloon.
So I think that's part of the reason. Yeah, his calf was a balloon. It wasn't even his fault. And his foot was probably a balloon that night. Still hungover from the 2018 fight with Habib. So I think all of those things are elements into your bigger question. He does look like Central Casting in Hollywood said, all right, you're going to be the UFC heavyweight champion. You look the part. He 100% fits that bill. And on top of it, he actually has this legit equalizer that only needs to be right for half a second. It's ridiculous. And that's damn. Yeah. And if he's just a little bit better, just enough to stop a takedown and land a shot on a break, that's all he needs. So we did get a super chat from Jose Gomez. Appreciate you giving us another one today, man. Thanks for the support. All that PT said, being said, with Ngannou only having just over a round of fight time since their first fight, if Stipe gets him past the first, is this his fight? So he wanted to ask you that, I think.
I don't think it's easy to just say, like, the first round. Like, I know he didn't do a lot, but he went 25 minutes a long time ago with that guy. I don't think it's just the first round. I think he could be potent in the second round. I think when you get towards the midpoint of the third round, you're going to be like, I think it's slipping away, you know, but I wouldn't be like, if he gets out of the first round, it's over. No way.
Yeah, I think the GDR thing just keeps coming into my mind. I keep thinking there's no way he won't be a better version than he was in 2018. There's just no way, right? But then you look at the GDR one, it was just like Amanda Nunes just reached for a leg and she got the takedown, you know? So, I mean, it can go that route. I feel like most of the time people tend to come back with a vengeance in these fights. And I think he'll be at least a little better. You know, like, I think the second round won't be the precipitous fall off that it was in the first fight. In the first round, he came out guns blazing and he was still trying to throw shots beyond that. But I mean, you look at the end of that round, he's just like, you know, he's breathing heavy. Ngannou was after that first round. I don't think we'll find that same person. If anything, I would be more afraid of is seeing the Derek Lewis version. If anything, somebody who's almost too hesitant to fire because they're so afraid of what happened the first time. He's practically traumatized by it. If anything, I'm more afraid of that version coming out than I am of seeing a one-sided. Right? What's that?
You want to nearly see a bit of that and a bit of the Stipe, the first fight. Like, you need to find a perfect balance. And can you imagine the whole world watching you? One of the biggest fights of the year, the biggest fight of your life, everything you've put your life towards is in this 25-minute segment or less, and you just have to be perfect. It's tough, man. It's a really tough sport, and there's so many dimensions by which you could lose from. Like, that's what makes it so different. You know, it's like he could be submitted, he could be TKO'd, he could be, like, you know what I mean, decisioned. It's tough, man, and it's the greatest heavyweight of all time. Well, the guy who's already beaten you emphatically.
Here's the one thing. Are we discounting this? I want to ask you this. I want to ask the chat this. Lawton, I expect a 3-minute take on this.
All right, I'll start thinking.
Will Stipe knock out? Are we? Because let's not forget, you know, like, how did he win the title? Absolutely torched Verdum, you know, who has an argument himself for being one of the greatest heavyweights of all time, beating Cain Velasquez, Fedor, huge names in the sport. So are we discounting Stipe's ability to knock him out?
I'm not. And to be honest, we wanted to feature, like, we had so much in that Francis piece that we had to cut it back quite substantially. But one of the things that Dewey Cooper talked about a lot was the same thing that I've seen a lot of people say, like, we're talking so much about the grappling because that's what happened in the first fight. But he was like, Stipe is one of the most present and most calculated boxers in the heavyweight division. Like he said, you know, he has a peekaboo style. He'll get in and out against someone like Francis, and he can do that. He can play the chess game in boxing. A lot of people can't. He believes Stipe is capable of boxing Ngannou for this whole fight, and just once he avoids the power, he's capable of doing it. Like, you know, he is very capable. We saw those 15-odd body shots he landed on DC in their fight. Like, when you can do something like that repeatedly, and the person that you're hitting knows what you're trying to hit them with, and they still can't stop it, that's really high-level boxing. And that's what Stipe has. But If you could avoid the power and take the guy down, you'd think that would be the best option. That's why the grappling question is so big coming into this fight.
Yeah, it's a no-brainer. Were you about to say something on?
No.
Oh, okay. I thought I heard you about to speak up, but
No. I mean, I can if you want me to say something stupid, but no, I'm just
Do a lot.
no.
I like
Toidles.
I like cold pizza. If you want to say something stupid, just go for it. So Stipe is the GOAT if he beats Jones, and Ngannou says Emmanuel Barboza.
He's already the GOAT.
I think he's the heavyweight GOAT for sure. He might be the greatest of all time, period, though, if he beats Jones. I don't know if that's the argument he's making. But the heavyweight GOAT, I would say. Yeah, I mean, I think John Jones has a case for it, for being the greatest. Nick Cochran says he has Stipe via TKO. And by the way, Nick Cochran said that you are the best addition that we made to MMA on Point. So you're getting some high marks from the chat here.
Well, Jay flew over to Ireland and bet the shit out of me about a month in, and he was like, "If this is what you're bringing to the table, I'm going to show up every day, motherfucker." And I've been really just chained to the desk since then because he handcuffed me to it. So may as well get some work done, you know. And sorry, Jay, I didn't know if you want me to reveal that or not. I don't like. I know you don't like to talk about the ritual beatings you put on us all, but that's what happened.
It's the way I was taught at Target to do things, and that's the way. That's what comes along with working for me, and I don't apologize for it. It's just how it is. Spencer,
when he hits me, I know he cares. That's what I like about it.
I just imagine that it's like that. I'm gonna get you a birthday card that says, "When he hits me, that's how I know he cares." Just like an ominous reminder. It's like, hey, man. Spencer Hayes, Francis took huge shots from him while tired in their fight and barely got rocked. Yeah, so I think that's the reason why most people would discount it. But I also think he was throwing to last the full 5 rounds. Because Stipe knows if he's up against a guy like that and his cardio can't outpace Ngannou's, then he's done. So I do think he threw some hard shots on the feet. So don't get me wrong. And there were a couple points, at least, you know, I mean, sometimes Joe Rogan, you know, he's subject to hyperbole. I think we all are when we're excited watching things. There was a couple of moments where he's like, "Oh, Francis is rocked," and I was like, "I don't know if he is," but you know that happens every once in a while. But it does show you that Stipe was throwing big shots at it, and Francis was surviving no problem. You know, so to be fair to that point, but I also think once he especially got it to the ground, there was a little less imperative to finish him. Of course, he wanted to, but to go like, 100% on all these shots. 5th round comes around, all of a sudden you guys are starting to look a little bit more even in terms of energy, because if you're throwing shots like that over and over again, I mean, it's just not sustainable. So I think that's part of it. Maybe he'll try to throw a more calculated sniper level shot in some of these positions. We don't know, you know, not to say he didn't try.
The most damaging defeat for me would be a body shot knockout after all that social media. That would be like if he creased
those body shot challenges. Oh,
have that. What do I win? What do I win?
Yeah, seriously, give me a hell of a prize. Ryan Garcia, all these people that have tried like just throwing those body shots, dude. Yeah, he needs to train with Boss Rutan real quick. It's like, all right, where's the liver? Where is it? Like pinpoint accuracy. Dang it, dat. I'm sorry, no, I'm not. That's the greatest video ever made.
Hello, Mr. Chair.
And once he knocks you out, God knows what he's going to try to do with you then. So much good shit. Hey, Jason, can heavyweights still be candidates for pound GOAT if there's a triple champ someday? I mean, I think the argument he's making is they don't really have the ability to go down because they can't even get belts in multiple divisions. Is that the argument? They don't have the ability to go up. I mean, I think Fedor was the greatest pound for pound when he was said to be. So I think they absolutely can. I don't think there's anything that holds you back. I guess the argument is he could have made it down to light heavyweight if you go strictly by that, but I don't think he needed to. You know, I think he proved it.
And he made us all feel good about our bodies. He was a body positive.
I was eating ice cream every time I saw that dude fight. I was just like, fuck yeah.
I love you, Fedor. I just eating pizza. I'm training, bro. I am training.
I was eating chocolate ice cream beer floats. Forget root beer. It was just straight beer in there. I was getting drunk eating ice cream. That sounds like the worst fucking thing on the planet. I would avoid doctor checkups for years while he was champion.
You don't know what a real man looks like, doctor. I'm an elite athlete.
Dude, you have no idea. I would bring posters with me every time to a doctor visit. It's like, here's Fedor. Shut up, bitch. Then we had high five. It was all good. He was like, oh, I understand now. Marty from Nebraska, great username. Stipe had a rear naked choke on Ngannou all night. Are you saying that he could have gone for it and he didn't go for it? Because I don't remember that. I don't know if that's an argument that he should have gone for it.
His neck is so big, I think most heavyweights' arms don't fit around it, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, that's a huge thing, like Ben Askren, a lot of people that come from a wrestling background, they prefer to tire you out. They prefer to make sure, so if the opportunity that's the thing. If you go for a submission, a lot of times it means losing position. You look at the Chad Mendes fight with Conor McGregor, he was winning that fight in the second round, raining down elbows and throwing hard shots against Conor McGregor. He goes for the guillotine. What happens? Conor McGregor gets out of that guillotine, stands back up, and lands the knockout blow in the final seconds of that round. You go for submissions, there's a risk in that. There absolutely is. And I think that's why so many wrestlers, they're cognizant of that. They know that they're not Gilbert Burns. They know that they're not Damian Maia. They have the ability to go for it, but the problem is they can lose position and end up in a disadvantageous spot. And they, I don't want to say they don't have the confidence, but they can't have the same confidence as a Mundial's champ, Do
you know what I think is interesting about this? So many people are like, oh, why aren't they talking about Stipe, blah, blah, blah. And everyone's talking about, oh, Francis, since that fight, has only done this and this and this. Is anyone taking into account the fact that Stipe Miocic has been KO'd since he fought Francis Ngannou? That's a deal, man.
Yeah.
That is a game changer, when basically the way the chin reacts is if you've been knocked out once, as soon as you get hit like that again, your body goes into a system where it's like, okay, this is what we did last time.
We survived. We survived.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Die.
So but am I being crazy thinking about that? I feel like that should be an issue when you're facing probably the most devastating knockout artist we've seen at heavyweight.
I guess the counter to that would be how well he took the shots in the second and third fight, I don't know what changed. What is it? The man's
body was a balloon.
The man's chin was a balloon. I don't know what it is that would have changed it, but I mean, especially that second fight for DC. DC cracked him over and over and over again. Yeah, but he took the shots though,
Francis hasn't been hit. He's pretty much not been hit.
Yeah. I mean, that's true too. Yeah. Stipe was KO'd by Struve. Man, talk about the weirdest loss on somebody that great's record. I mean, it just shows you how brutal fighting is, man. Everybody has a weird loss like that. Cyborg lost in her very first fight. She got subbed quick.
Not me.
How many? What's your record, PT?
76-2. The 2 are my mother. Everything else.
You just let her win. That's right. Yeah.
She used slippers. You're not allowed to beat a man with slippers. Ridiculous. Where was the ref for that one?
It reminds me of Ken Shamrock in interviews. He's just like, at UFC 1, I thought they were going to allow me to wear shoes. And they didn't let me wear shoes because they knew I would beat Royce Gracie. It's the slippers, man. It's the slippers. Same thing. Well, cool. I think we're about to wrap it up here, guys. We do have Jose Gomez here with a $4.99 super chat. Lastly, for me, really appreciate your support, Jose. Been a low-key fan for a few years now, and just want to say thanks for you guys and the research, input, and content you put out. Appreciate you, man. Thank you. Yeah, it's a labor of love. Sometimes it doesn't feel that way, especially for PT on some of these nights. We're messaging back and forth about the pains, the growing pains of trying to put some of these together. And I mean, God knows, we're about to go through hell this weekend.
The Franny one nearly didn't happen. Let's be honest, Jay.
Yes.
You and Max and everyone, we all had to put in an astonishing last-minute scramble to get that one out. It was. I think I had 3 interviews postponed, 4 interviews cancelled. I had to gain permission from the UFC to speak to Kyle Larimer, which took a week. So I mean, it was a serious effort for us to get that out. So well done to you and Max, though, especially because shit, you had 3 days to put that together. Oh, here's 4 hours of interviews. I've used about 20 seconds of them. Good point.
It's so much more digestible, I think, in that format. And obviously, who knows? Maybe we'll find an outlet for full-length interviews to post those. That's what this channel was originally set for. But then, of course, the pandemic hit and we went this direction with it. So who knows? Maybe we'll figure out a way to put that out there. But there's just so much effort that goes into it. And especially with the interviews and trying to set those up, I really was feeling for you on those because I've been stiffing on a couple of interviews in my past as well. And you were just grinding. You're just like, nope, not giving up. Keep going for it. And finally got him. So.
Yeah, I had to show the 2 Reuters meetings like, so the Ngannou piece, I still haven't talked to anyone. What do we think of that?
Yeah, it's like everybody's going around the table, basically virtually going around the table, just like, all right, so I got this going on. We're good to go. We're all set. And you're just like,
Yeah, I'm really trying, though.
Dude, yeah. I mean, I think we all realize the fortunate place that we're in to be talking about something that we love. I mean, I remember working office jobs and just being like not getting shit done at work because it was just like, oh shit, like Twitter's blowing up right now about, I don't know, Conor versus Mayweather or something like that. Shows how much later I've actually started doing this than you because you were actually covering those events back then. But it's like, you realize the fortunate, like this used to be the stuff that you would procrastinate with. It's like, oh, trying to like edit or do something cool. I remember making hype videos back in the day. So there's a grind side to it that does become actual work at the end of the day, but you're also thinking about it at the same time of just how badass it is. It's really fucking
cool. I don't ever think about how badass it is anymore. It's just literally like, why don't I sleep? Why don't I sleep?
What is
That's
that?
my most, like, what the fuck is going, like, do you realize that
Define sleep, Google.
This news cycle doesn't stop. Like it's a weekly. Like there's no off season here. Like we are pretty much exhausted every day of the week. The fact that it is cool, I think, gives us the drive to keep doing it. But when you're waiting for an interview to come through at 1 a.m. and the guy texts you 10 minutes before going, "Oh, I can't do it now." Actually, you're not going. You know what? This is great.
I love this. And you still got to wake up the next day and get on with your day. It's not like you get to push it back. Yeah, man. There's good and bad sides to it. I think, when you look back on it all, it's like you're just proud of it. Like looking at a piece like that in particular, just super stoked with it.
Blown away by what.
Yeah, I edited it really well. So there's that. So anyhow, I think we need to wrap it up here. I want to give a shout out to Lawton. He's got his Composes piece. We're going to be putting that up at 4 p.m. my time, which is 5 Eastern time. So we'll be putting that up here very soon. So keep your eye out on that. And really appreciate everybody on the Super Chat. Appreciate you, PC. Appreciate you running everything, Lawton. Everybody who gave the Super Chats. Everybody who chatted in general. Make sure while you're waiting for that piece to go up, the Composers Corner, that you do check out that Ngannou piece because it is outstanding. I'm not just saying that because I work here. I only edited half of the damn thing anyway. So there we go. Check it out. And check out Composers Corner. Will be on Twitch anytime soon. I don't know who's going to be on it today, but check out our Twitch and we will see you.
I love them. Lawton, you and Composer, man, unbelievable. I love them. I watch them every week. I'm always looking forward to what it might be. Yeah, absolutely brilliant. You'll see some shit that you can't believe is actually happening in this sport. Like every time you're somehow like, what in the name of God happened there? Every single time. It's magic.
Yeah, I always say this statistically, you have not seen the best knockout in the world. You have not seen the best fight in the world because there's so many goddamn fights going on out there. And that's the great thing about what Capoza does. Credit to that man and how much fights he actually watches throughout a week. So, yeah, we'll catch you with that later. What?
That's what old dirty bastard used to say from the Wu-Tang Clan. I'm the Osiris of this shit. It's some medieval god that oversees everything. And that's what I feel Capoza is for MMA.
Dude, that is so true. We're going to start calling him Osiris low-key. But, yeah, so we'll see you guys on the next chat and on all these other videos that we talked about. Really appreciate you guys. Had a blast. So you guys have a great Wednesday. Peace out, homies.